Hi, everyone. We are so excited to be here with you today. I'm Regina Novak of RCM Financial Coaching, and I'm joined today by Monica Burton, our marriage and family therapist, and a good friend and colleague of mine. Monica, thanks for being with me today.
Thank you, Regina. Hello, everyone. Thanks for being here. And we are excited to talk about how to create a budget-friendly summer.
Yes. So Monica and I have been working together for several months now, and we launched our course, Money in Your Relationships, which was so much fun for both of us, coming from both of our backgrounds of Monica working with families around a lot of things that come up, right, in our relationships. Relationships are not easy. And then bringing in the financial coaching piece. And we had so much fun with that. And when we finished it, we're like, you know what? We're not done. We want to keep adding value to this course. So together, we're going to come up with relevant topics to families, families with kids, families without kids, to really add value to that course. Because just like we said in our course, Monica, this is a lifelong journey. And well, we didn't want to say goodbye to you guys.
Right. So part of it is understanding, as we were doing the course, the ABCs of Money in Your Relationship, we recognize that with couples, it's hard to talk about money. And oftentimes it's attached to other areas in their relationship. And so, having these monthly calls is a way for you guys to kind of stay on track with how to bring up difficult or uncomfortable topics. And so, this is one of our passions, is to continue to help you have those tough conversations in ways that aren't detrimental to yourself or to the relationship. So, the summertime, and this is really for those of you who, well, not really. I'll retract that. I guess when I was thinking about this topic and we kind of brought it up, I was thinking about my own, like, where are my kids going to go this summer? But we also know that if you don't have kids, the summertime is usually a time where you relax, or at least that's the hope, right? And you plan for maybe vacations, especially this year after COVID, when people are starting to travel again. And so as we're starting to plan for things, whether it's where the kid's going to go this summer, or if you want to take vacations or plan things with your friends, we want you to be mindful of how do you stick to your budget. So when fall comes around, which inevitably leads right to Christmas, you're not like, where'd all the money go? Right, Regina?
Oh, absolutely. And you're right. Some of this is going to be geared more towards if you have children, particularly school age children. And then some of it just applies not only during the summer, but year round. Because something that Monica and I really like to focus on, it's kind of two big themes that we focus everything we talk about around is, you have your overall goals and dreams, right? We talk about financial visioning, and as a couple really doing that together, almost having like a dreaming date night of what that looks like.
Right.
And part of that is you need a plan to go with it. We can make goals and dreams, but it's how we get there. And an intentional and focused budget, or if you like to call it more of a spending savings plan, that's how it happens, right? We have to put everything we want to do with our money into our plan. And that way we can see, do I need to reallocate here? Do we need to tweak some things? Because if this is our goal, maybe our plan's not aligning with that. And then the second piece, and Monica does a lot of this in her practices, we have to talk. We have to communicate. And Monica, I think the biggest thing is, and this is why we're doing this here in April before June comes and the summer comes, is we want to talk now, right? Because if we wait till June 1st to have a conversation about, oh, wait, we have to put the kids in camp, that's going to cause a lot of stress, right? And we know that money and big decisions are a big source of stress in a relationship. So, we want to have this conversation like today, don't we?
Right. Yes. Anytime we can create a plan and remind ourselves that we're in a relationship, that we're in this together, it helps. And so we don't have to make these impulsive decisions that might not be right for your family. So when you can come together and kind of say, okay, we have the summer coming up. What are our dreams about the summer? What are our hopes? What are the things that we're really looking forward to? Again, especially after a year of being in quarantine. And, some people still might be in quarantine. I'm not sure. So just, what are some of our dreams? What would we like to see happen? And also, where's our budget? And if we can't make our dream happen, is there a version of it? And also, when we're working and you do have children, where are they going to go? And those are big topics. And if we have to make them impulsively, it could possibly create more conflict. It could feel like you're not being heard, listened to, or understood. And so, that kind of chips away at your relationship. So it is important to come together and start planning and talking through some things.
Yes. So we made a list of about 5 things to consider. Okay. So 5 ways to have a budget friendly summer. And the food budget is the first one we want to start with. And Monica teed this up wonderfully because you're absolutely right. A lot of us tend to think that the summer is kind of vacation time. We relax a little bit, and that's awesome. I think as parents, we know that children look forward to the summer. We get excited about things being a little bit more lax. Maybe it's not rushing around as much as we would like maybe during the school year. There's just a different feel in the air, right? We're thinking about the beach or a mountain trip or whatever that looks like, and the food can really be a make or break in the budget. Whether it's staying at home or going on vacation, because we tend to be more relaxed, we might be more inclined to completely blow the food budget, buy additional food, maybe eat out quite a bit more. There's also some really awesome holidays coming up with Memorial Day to kick off the summer, 4th of July. It's just really a celebratory time. And a lot of times food is part of that. But we can really get sidetracked from our goals and spend an exorbitant amount of food if we're not careful with that piece of our budget.
Right. Right. And to be honest, I've gotten into the trap of going to the grocery store every day. And especially in the summer, because, in the summer, maybe you plan for a crock pot meal, but it's hot and you want to grill, instead. So I think it's making the commitment to yourself, to each other, that if you make a food list, you're going to stick to it. And there might be some time where you give yourself a little bit of grace, but stick to your budget.
Yes. And part of that is, and I think this is a topic we've discussed doing too, because food and finances is are fun topics to talk about, and they're big. But it's also, if we want to, make room in the budget for some of those more fun meals, is there a way to do it more affordably? So now might be a good time to look and see, are you shopping at just one grocery store? Maybe you could price compare. We do that with everything else we purchase. So maybe it's finding where you could get, better deals on food to barbecue. Kind of moving a little bit into our second one too, when it comes to things like vacation and staycations, are we eating all those meals out, or do we have an opportunity to save some money and still have fun and eat good food by purchasing groceries? So kind of moving into that second piece of the vacation, that's a huge place to save money when we're vacationing. And Monica, it kind of brought me back to my childhood, thinking about when my folks would get a place on the beach. We went grocery shopping. We kind of, that was a huge way to save a lot of money. We would usually do maybe, one meal out, but we didn't do 3 meals out. That would have been an exorbitant. I don't even want to think about how much that trip would have cost if they were trying to feed 6 people 3 meals a day. So 1 meal out, 2 meals in. That was one way we were able to save quite a bit on vacations when I was growing up. And I think that's still plausible. Water bottles. I know that sounds crazy, but thinking about how much it costs to buy things, if you're doing sodas or waters and stuff, why not just carry those around? That's a kind of an easy way to save some money.
Right. And then for the environment.
It is, yes. Nothing like a reusable water bottle. I don't know if anyone can see mine, right? Um, from the same perspective, reusable coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a way to save some money. And there are so many, and we won't list all of them, that so many places where you can save on bookings. There's different deals that are going to be out. And again, to your point of this past year being a little bit weird, I think people are ready to be out vacationing. So check some of those sites. Um, this is going to maybe get some nerves, Monica, but I'm going to say it anyway because it's important to put this out there. But one way we can save is to avoid souvenirs. And I say that from the kid perspective as well as the parent perspective. But, saving some money on the stuff and doing more of the experience things, which is actually something we do talk about in our course,
Right.
experiences versus things. And as a couple, do we want to spend money on stuff or do we want to spend money on the memories? And that can be one of those personality conversations, can't it?
Yes. I think that in the end, we do remember the experiences more than the thing that we want to buy. But I think if buying something is important, then how can you incorporate it into the budget? And maybe instead of buying 5 things, you buy one thing. Like, for example, a ritual that my kids and I have is that wherever we go, we do buy an ornament because we celebrate Christmas.
That's awesome.
So, that's not something that I would be willing to compromise on. Like, that's because it's a family ritual. But, then do I need to buy the sweatshirt or the water gun to play on the beach or this or that? Like, no. So I think when you're talking about to me, this is like what do we want? Like, what brings meaning or value? Maybe what's a ritual that we're creating? Because, symbolism is a part of like a shared meaning system. And sometimes it is like a souvenir. However, you do bring up a good point because we can just throw money away. If you go to, like, we live in an area where there's a tourist trap called John's Path, and it's full of tourist shops. And even as a local, it's easy to get caught in the trap of, if you go to this store, you can get the Florida saltwater taffy, or this store, get the Florida seashell, or this store, and so just kind of reminding yourself, like, okay, we don't need all of that, but what is something that's going to bring meaning and value to our family? That's within
Absolutely.
the budget.
Exactly. And that communication piece again is key. It's talking about what's important. And again, the overall budget, because you're right. If you budget for it, that means you set that money aside. And there's other ways to save. Look for free events. Free events, ways to use some of the rewards. One thing that I'm actually looking in personally, there's sometimes memberships where, and I'm not even talking about the big theme parks, but let's say it's an art gallery or museum. You can purchase like a family membership and have reciprocal benefits other places. So whether or not you all are staying local or going maybe someplace else in the state or another state, check those out because maybe for a family membership, you could spend maybe $160 for a family of 4, and you then get free admission to other places, botanical gardens, museums, art galleries. So that might be a really cool way, whether it's a staycation or an actual vacation. And then there's also, wrote down 2 other things, Monica, if we can navigate this peacefully, right? There's always family. We can always, look to see, can we stay with family or friends? Maybe that's a way to take an affordable trip. And then something that I know we both like the outdoors, but things like camping, maybe things like taking a canoe trip, going to a spring, so there's some really neat things. And we both live in Florida, but we've also traveled outside, and there are so many neat opportunities
Right.
and beautiful places. And again, saying that as people who like to be outside, nature is gorgeous, and you can have a really awesome trip as a couple or as a family and make some great memories by doing some pretty, simple and inexpensive things.
Right. Hmm.
So lots of options, lots of options. Now, this one's going to be, the next two are going to be a bit more tailored to those of you with families, particularly school aged, because what am I talking about? I'm talking about summer camp and activities.
Right.
And this can be a major source of stress. And again, talk about a piece to communicate with. What do we do with the kids during the summer? Right.
Hmm.
So we can't even list all the options. Monica, there's so many options out there. And I know we are both looking at this too for our own children, but start thinking about it now, because we are still in an environment where things may be limited, right? Depending on where you live, where you're watching this from, there could be some limits on how many kids they're taking.
Right.
So early, right? Start thinking about this early. So a little known fact that most of you probably don't think about is they oftentimes have financial aid and scholarships available. So if you are looking at your budget and saying, we might qualify as need-based, we know it's been a tough year for a lot of people, hours reduced, some of you may have been out of work. So look into those things because it's there. If we
Hmm.
don't ask, we don't know. And there's nothing wrong with asking. Those things are in place to help us, right? So that's one way. Um, Sibling discounts, if you have multiple kids, also signing up for multiple weeks sometimes gives you a better rate.
Hmm.
Um, Churches, boys and girls clubs, and a lot of your municipalities. So maybe check with your local
Okay.
city. A lot
Hmm.
of those tend to be less expensive than some of the private camps. And one thing too, Monica, I've found is some of the city camps have a longer duration.
Yes.
So
Hmm.
I checked our local city, it's like 7:30 to 5:30 coverage for your kids. So those could be, again, more affordable options. And then, we were just discussing this too. It doesn't have to be a typical summer camp, right? Get
Hmm.
get creative. Are grandma and grandpa going to be in town? Maybe
Hmm.
they do some of that. Maybe there's time sharing with other parents, right? So you work it out, and you find different things to do. Public libraries, I think a lot of them are starting to open up. They have amazing programs. Your local library probably has some wonderful people that are excited to program with your kids. Enrichment programs, online courses. And Monica, you brought up something that I had never thought about before, but I think it's worth mentioning. We have a lot of young adults home, don't
Oh
we?
yeah, like if you live close to a college campus, if you don't have any ties to the college campus, you probably have to call. But a lot of times college students who are staying in town want to find work. And so it would be, you could look at if there's any college age students who are looking for some part-time work. If you're not quite comfortable having your kid be out in a summer camp, that might be an alternative. You can also care.com is just one example of a resource that you could look into, and care.com is a website that basically has people on there looking for some part-time or full-time work, whether it's house cleaning, taking care of like elder care, or nannying or babysitting. You can also, if you have social media and are in moms groups, sometimes moms will post resources for babysitters, or they'll post something you can ask, like any affordable childcare for the summer. Sometimes moms are looking for some part-time work during the summer. So, or even asking some of school teachers, if your child is school aged, sometimes school teachers are looking for some part-time work. So, this is again why we want to plan, is so we can start getting curious about what sort of options are out there that's going to fit best for your family. And it's always okay to ask, guys.
It is, and get creative because again, when this is April of 2021, there's still a pandemic going on.
Yeah.
Depending on what you do for a living, you may still be at home full time, working from home. Some of you also may have more flexible schedules. So this is a great opportunity. Use your network, talk to other moms and dads. Let's say you are working from home and you're able to schedule, your day to maybe, you're home for a couple hours in the morning with the kids, and then maybe you and your partner switch and you do something like that. Or maybe check with again at school. If you are working sort of a flexible schedule and you're able to take a day, maybe you put out there to other families that, hey, I'll take your kids on Monday if you can cover kids Thursday. Fit in
Right.
maybe grandma, grandpa, or a sibling or something. Like, there are creative ways to do this affordably, do
Mm-hmm.
this safely, and also, again, your kids, it's important they're someplace that you feel comfortable with. So it's creative time, but I think we all kind of learned that about a year ago when life looked very different, right?
No, it's creativity in a different way, but yes.
It is. It is. So the next one, so we talk about summer camp and activities. What about, and I know I don't even want to say it because when we're in summer mode, we're not thinking about this, but back to school. We will go back to school.
Mhm.
August, I guess some of you watching, it could be September, again, depending on where you are in the nation, but there's back to school costs. Okay, so how do we fit that into our budget? Well, I will tell you one of my secrets, and Monica knows this, thrift stores. So kids, okay, if you have kids, you also know that you buy them something the next month, it might not fit.
They grow pretty
So
fast.
they do, so it, especially for those of you who are creative, like a little bit of challenge, there's an opportunity to get some great clothes for a really good deal. And again, you don't feel so bad when your kid grows out of it in a month or whatever. So
Mhm.
that can be an option. I actually just had luck last week. I went and bought a couple things for mommy. Actually, this was a $5 blouse. So go to the thrift stores, have fun. You can find some things there. There's also, a lot of really affordable places. Whether or not they're offering their back to school sales, sometimes you just go there, check the clearance racks. Um, I just went to Target last week, Monica, and found for $5 for both my kids, bigger. So planning for the winter, I found clearance winter clothes. So they got brand new sweatshirts that will fit
Mhm.
them hopefully in the next 6 months. So there's ways to, kind of shop around even now, planning for what that's going to look like. And of course, different apps, different coupons, different sales, and all those things kind of come down the way. And that's looking at clothing. But, the other piece is school supplies.
Mhm.
And you don't have to spend a fortune, check, check early. I know there's tons of BOGOs at some places. Schools will sometimes offer an option of a package that you can purchase versus you providing all of it. And that's really up to you. That's one of those value things, again, that you'll have to talk about as a couple. But do we shop on our own and try to get the best deal, or do we go for convenience? And the right answer is what's going to work for your
Your-
family.
Right, and your budget. Mhm.
Mhm.
I also think that at the end of the year, even though we don't want to think about going back to school in the summertime, at the end of the year, depending on how old your child is, but if you know any kids that are graduating, that in you go to a school that has uniforms and your kid is close in size or age, excuse me, it might be good to ask like for the clothes, just as a way to again save some money. And again, just another time to kind of ask your mom's groups or dad's groups on how to if any uniforms are being given away or if they know of any sales that are happening. Sometimes when it's not in the time frame is when you find the best sales.
That's true. And I think you bring up an excellent point because more and more schools are going to uniforms.
Mhm.
Not just private or church groups, but also public schools. A lot of them have gone to uniforms. And if your school doesn't have a uniform exchange, that might be a neat thing for one of you parents to kind of take on at your school. It's an opportunity for everyone to bring their don't need it anymore things, and then people get to just swap it. So that's a fantastic idea. And again, we're talking about reducing waste.
Mhm.
So, being
Right.
able to pay it forward in a way.
Right. Hmm. Right.
So
Yes.
then the last one, and we talked about this a little bit before we got on here, but the value of giving back, right? When we look at summer, and we mentioned this in our course, of course, when it comes to giving. And a lot of times we want to give, and some of us might not be in a place with our financial journey where we can necessarily give a lot of money, right? And there's nothing that's too small, but there's also the opportunity to give our time and our talent. So, our last suggestion for making this a budget friendly and really an awesome summer is to look at maybe service projects that you
Mhm.
could do as a couple, as a family, because Monica, there's so much research too that, volunteering and giving back is wonderful for our spirit, wonderful for our mental and emotional well-being.
Right. Well, I think absolutely. And when first of all, it could be something that you could do that's different than planning a vacation, but it's still you're doing something and it also feels really good. And then the other piece, like if you do have a family, sometimes depending on the age of your child, they're required at certain schools to do service projects. So it could be a good thing to kind of get that in. And at the same time, if you're, even if you don't have that with kids or schools or whatever, it's a good way to it's a good way to give of self, and especially at a year of being under lockdown, it's a good way to connect to others. So I think all around, whether it's one day a month or setting something up more regularly, it's a good way to be of service to others.
Yes. And there's so many opportunities to do that. I mean, it could be something as simple as, going to your local beach. We both live by the beach. We love the beach. Take some gloves, definitely take
Beach
gloves.
cleanups.
Yes, like just and do that as a family, or maybe invite another family. That would be something where you're outside. You could do a small gathering safely where no one's too close to each other. You can clean up our beaches. That's a simple one. You can check with maybe your local place of worship to see what they might be have going on. A lot of churches, synagogues, and temples are looking at reopening at this point if they have not already. And something that was hit a lot last year were a lot of kind of nonprofit efforts and charity efforts. So there's a lot of people in need, so maybe if you're looking for a project that you can do more long term, check with maybe the local place of worship to see what help they might need. Other avenues, hospitals may be hard right now, but check with even your local, girls and boys club. Do they need maybe some mentoring or tutoring? We all have talent, so there could be
Right.
things that you as adults can do, and there also might be smaller jobs that you could get your kids involved in. The local homeless shelter may have a need for things. There's so many options. It's really kind of what speaks to your heart and what's going to work for your family.
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be a great summer, Monica.
It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be wonderful. So we hope, guys, that you can use some or all of these tips on creating a summer that's going to make it great for you and for your family.
Yes. And if you have questions on how to see more of the course that we offer, again, this is going to be added to the course catalog that we have for purchase, the ABCs of your relationship and money. You can email Monica or myself. We're also on different social medias. I'm at Regina at rcmfinancialcoaching.com. And you can reach out to Monica at monicaburtonlmft@yahoo.com. And we'll be brainstorming for next month to do another free webinar. For those of you interested in joining us, we love the questions. We were able to put together today based on feedback that we got from clients, the summer's coming. So we hope this was helpful, and we are here to serve you as a marriage and family therapist and as a financial coach. So we appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Yes. Have a good one and have a wonderful summer.
Yes. Thank you.